is, and all our soldiers knew it, that if they took any prisoners, these were to be treated humanely, to be carried back if they were wounded to our casualty clearing station, and to be treated as human beings as under the Geneva Convention.
How could a rifle fight against a warplane? When we realized that nearly 3/4 of us were killed, we pulled out. We ran away.
As darkness fell on the Egyptian battlefields, British commanders were content with the advance towards the Canal Zone. But in Downing Street there were some troubling developments. That night, Eden's private secretary received a call from the French embassy.
I suppose it was round about midnight when I was woken by a telephone call from the French ambassador. He said there had been a letter from Bulganin, and had I read it.
Nikolai Bulganin was the Prime Minister of the Soviet Union. Relations between East and West were strained following the recent uprising in Hungary. The day before the Suez invasion, Russian tanks had entered Budapest. Soviet troops were currently occupying the National Assembly. Now, in his letter, Bulganin issued dire threats of retaliation for the invasion of Egypt.
There were threats of determination to crush the aggressors. The question was whether this should be shown to the Prime Minister straight away, which would mean waking him up. Having pondered over this for a bit, I thought that the most sensible thing to do was to leave it until the early morning.
The next morning, the second phase of the invasion went ahead.
We were on the flight deck early in the morning. The sun was breaking in the eastern sky. With Valley was at 2:30 in the morning. So exciting, you just can't believe it, you know. I mean, it was the very thing you joined up for, you know, to be in uniform, to have a rifle. We've been practicing for 9 months how to shoot and how to kill and how to assault, and here we were actually doing it. You know, we couldn't believe our luck.
While the Paras approached from the west, a large Anglo-French fleet now attacked the Canal Zone from the sea.
I recognised that this was a serious enterprise when I went up one morning and I saw this vast armada, mainly French battleships and aircraft carriers all around, and it was quite clear that, you know, this was a sort of second D-Day almost. We were definitely going to do it.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, the naval guns opened fire at the coastal defences. Jet fighters strafed the beaches in preparation for the landing. At 4:45, Royal Marines of 40 and 42 Commando began their assault. Their objective was to seize Port Said at the mouth of the Suez Canal. Once the town was secured, the British could press on and take control of the canal itself. 4-5 Commando now joined the attack by helicopter.
Just as we were about to get in the helicopters, a cheerful naval officer announced on the broadcast, we've just received word that there is that 45 Commando can expect heavy opposition ashore. That's the last thing I heard as we got in the helicopters and flew off.
quite impressed, actually. The bombardment looked as though it was very efficient. There was lots of black smoke, and you got the feeling that somebody had taken a hell of a pasting on the beach, and hopefully when we landed, we wouldn't be quite so rough.
And then we're flashing across the water now, going over the 50 feet above the sea. We can see ships out to the west. And then suddenly we're over the beach, and I can see the shacks, which are on fire, still burning, still smoking, the beach huts. And then we were down, and suddenly we hit the deck in a cloud of dust. And as we leapt out, not knowing where we were really, I don't remember that we were being told we were going to be landed at De Lesseps statue. We landed, hit the deck, bang, out through the doorway, which is what we've been trained to do, run out 20 yards, fling yourself down. Don't know where you were, fling yourself down, come on aim, in a firing position, all-round defence. Helicopter takes off, clouds of dust, and there we are on the beaches in Port Said, and there's bullets flying over, and the sound of gunfire, and you think to yourself, God, we're here.
That morning in London, the political crisis was coming to a head. Shortly after Eden learned of the threats from Soviet Russia, news came that the international money markets were turning against the pound. The Chancellor of the Exchequer began to wobble.
Well, Harold Macmillan started to, I won't say lose his nerve, but he started to backtrack when there started to be a run on the pound.
Surely the issue here is financial.
Macmillan informed his cabinet colleagues that there had been heavy selling of sterling overnight in New York.
Devaluation and the death of sterling.
Some of Eden's allies believed that Macmillan may have been playing a double game, using the crisis to advance his hopes of succeeding Eden as Prime Minister.
Well, Harold Macmillan was a devious man, I think it's fair to say. Eden was a much more straightforward character in every way.
I have just received confirmation during this meeting that unless we agree to a ceasefire...
To support the value of sterling, Britain was spending millions of pounds from its reserves. But Macmillan overstated the scale of the financial crisis.
In addition to this, there is the serious danger of oil sanctions.
You could say perhaps that Harold Macmillan was more subtle. I don't think that he betrayed Eden during the crisis, but I suppose he saw it as an opportunity to replace him, yes.
In Egypt, the British forces were now entering Port Said. They encountered some desperate resistance.
We then embarked half the unit in the LVTs and drove down the center of the town, being sniped at by snipers from windows from the 5th floor down, and also we had grenades chucked at us.
Some of the young men with us only had wooden sticks. People who didn't know how to use guns just held sticks. Even women came out to fight with us.
Initially, would reach the building, ground floor, and work our way out and clear it. Clear each floor, kill anybody who was in the rooms. We saw this emplacement disappear in a cloud of smoke and dust and people screaming. And the routine then is to up and charge and kill anybody who's still alive. We reckon there were some that were 12 years old, and I saw one sergeant take the weapon away and cuff him around the ear and told him to bugger off. He could hardly carry the weapon. He was kind of undernourished little lad. It does cross your mind that this isn't what we should be doing. You don't want to kill civilians or children particularly. It would make you hesitate slightly. Unless he was firing at you, then you wouldn't hesitate.
The British didn't think that the Egyptian people in Port Said would fight in this way. They thought that the people would welcome them and overthrow Abdul Nasser. But it was the opposite. People fighting to the death.
We had to take cover quickly, and we got down behind this wall. We were carrying down, really scared. The noise and the machine gun fire around it was just terrific. And all through my head, I thought, that's it. I thought about my mother. I thought about my father. Pictured their faces. It may have been an instant. It may have been like a 1 second or a 2 second instant. And I thought, God, I'm not going to see them again. And I thought, I'm only 19. I've never had sex, never been in love, never been out with a woman. And I felt so despondent in those about 3 or 4 seconds because I thought I was going to die. And I thought, so unfair.
The diehards were stuck in flats in a window, and sometimes we'd use this 105, basically our artillery, to clear the building. We'd just shoot one of these off and it'd wipe out anybody in the building.
Of course, in those days, I've got to admit it, they were wogs to us in the Marines in 1956. There was Europeans and we were wogs. And we freely used that expression without any hesitation. And we considered them less than mortals, I dare say. We had no qualms about shooting them. We were carrying out the aims of the British government. Britain had said, we've got to take the canal we would, and to the devil the hindmost. And living in the Middle East, they were just trouble.
Just as military triumph seemed to be within the soldiers' grasp, political defeat was staring their masters in the face. To rescue the pound and to stave off the threat of sanctions from the United Nations, Britain now needed the help of her great wartime ally, the United States President. The response was emphatic.
Eisenhower simply told his people in the administration that they were not to do anything to assist the British with respect either to the currency or with respect to oil until they had made a firm commitment and started to withdraw from Egypt. And he held to that.
Unless we agree to a ceasefire, the American government will not support us with the IMF. We've got to stop.
With no prospect of American help for Sterling, and in the face of worldwide condemnation, the British government caved in.
So we are agreed then? A ceasefire it is. I think he would have gone through with it, and he was always in favour of going on. The cabinet really lost their nerve at the last minute.
But while discussions in London veered towards peace, the tragedies of war continued in Egypt.
I'm looking along the promenade westward, and low down on the horizon I saw a silhouette of an aircraft come towards me. And I thought nothing of it and kept walking. And then suddenly I looked up again, and along the leading edge of the wings I saw little sparks flickering, and I thought, what's that? What's he doing? Just like that. And then there was loud explosions either side of us all the way down the road. Bang, 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 bits of concrete going. And for another split second, I still thought, what's that?
It was a fighter from a British carrier mistakenly firing on British troops.
You could see the smoke coming from his guns, and the next second we were hit by a burst of 38mm cannon shell fire, which went through us like a scythe.
And then I saw in front of me 2 or 3 Marines' bodies going up in the air, rifles and bodies going up about 8 feet into the air.
And I was doing somersaults and came down with a bit of a